How about now?
There you go. You're gorgeous. See?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Super. Excited.
We can start whenever you're ready.
Oh, welcome, Alfred Edmond Jr. I'm so excited to have you here at my blog. Alfred Edmond Jr., just in case you guys have been living under a rock, is the Senior Vice President and a Senior Editor at Large at Black Enterprise Magazine. He has been instrumental at shifting Black Enterprise from an all-print publication into the digital era. And I'll say he's done a fantastic job. I've connected with him on Twitter, and I have him right here to answer some of the questions that you have asked me about how to be more successful in your small business. Welcome.
It's my pleasure, Donna. Great talking to you and your audience.
Oh, same here. You know, one of the questions I get a lot is, I'm the president of the Indie Beauty Network. And by the way, Dawn Fitch is one of my members, and she is on the current cover of your magazine,
That's right.
Black Enterprise. And I have noticed, and all of my blog readers as well have noticed, that companies like Dawn are sprouting up all over the country. They are so inspiring. They start these small businesses in their garages, in their kitchens, as Dawn did, and now they're growing. I want you to tell us, what do you see in the world of business where these micro business owners are concerned? These are not outside funded businesses, no investors, bootstrapping all the way. What do you see as the editor of Black Enterprise Magazine?
Well, as you probably know, the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs is Black female-owned businesses or minority women-owned businesses. Black-owned businesses in general are growing faster in number as well as revenue growth than the general population. So you're right, there is something major happening in our economy and has been probably for the last 7 to 10 years. What we're seeing is what I call the creative economy. As larger companies have become more global, there's a local and national demand in our economy to really rely more on small business growth and development to fuel our local economies, to fuel our national economies, and to create jobs. And more African Americans, women are really stepping into that role, pursuing dreams that they've always had, and really trying to make it happen.
Now, what do you see when you think about how these businesses are treated in the larger business world, in the regulatory world in particular? Because what I'm seeing, and I'd like your comments on this, is a lot of the legislative and regulatory things that have happened to businesses in different industries for hundreds of years have just continued rolling along as they've always had. But what I'm noticing, and I'd like to know if you're noticing this and what your comments are, is that they are not equipped to embrace or to understand the special needs of these tiny businesses that they are including in their regulatory structures. These businesses don't have lobbyists. They don't have the typical access into the halls of power. And I'd like to know what you see in that arena for businesses across all industries and what your suggestions are for how small businesses can handle that, participate in the legislative process.
Well, first of all, if you're not really engaged both locally and nationally in the political process, and this is not about party, it's about issues and legislation, you're not really in business. All successful entrepreneurs are engaged in that process. That said, what we're seeing is a real sea change, and like you said, for a long time there was no real change, both in government as well as major corporations who are now recognizing that the health of the economy depends on the ability to make it easier for smaller businesses to not only become established, but to create jobs. A great example is Sears, which is a large, well-known big box company, now really pushing this idea of owning community stores through their own Sears store program, because the recognition is that, yes, you still need big box retail outlets, but if you can't create opportunities for small business owners in different communities through franchising and other means, you're not going to have the economic power that you need to create consumers with the money to spend and the economic health to sustain our economy as a whole. So both the government and the private sector are starting to really move in the direction of creating more opportunities and resources for, as you said, micro businesses and small businesses.
Now, I'd like to shift gears for a little bit and ask you a couple of questions about how you are embracing technology, how you are handling the introduction of so much new digital media and new technologies. You are a master at this stuff. So we have you just for a few minutes. Tell us what your tips are for approaching these new technologies in a way that use them efficiently, but also personably, which is so important.
Well, first of all, I'd like to recommend a book that I really believe in called The Thank You Economy, The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk, which kind of is a great explanation for why we really need to embrace social media and technologies in general in order to really communicate and have relationships with our customers. And that's what it's really all about, having good relationships, not just transactions, but good relationships with your clients. You mentioned Dawn Fitch, Pukalita on Twitter, and how she's our cover subject for our March issue on small business and technology, and how she's really, as a small business, used Twitter, Facebook, and other technologies to really connect with customers and grow her business. And by the way, Dawn is going to be speaking at the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Conference in May in Chicago on our social media panel because we want to showcase small businesses that do that. So I've been into social media for, God, maybe 10, 12 years before I ever knew it would have anything to do with my work. And I always tell people the old media model was broadcast, promote, sell. The new media model is listen, respond, and serve. And those companies, whether big or small, that can do that effectively are the ones that win in this economy. And you can be a small business and win in this economy and play on a level playing field with much larger businesses if you master that listen, respond, serve model. And that's what I recommend to all entrepreneurs and individuals who are trying to manage their brand.
Well, and that's another issue as well. We are living in this economy, as you mentioned, where it's not just about small business, it's not just about employees. In fact, everybody has this sort of opportunity to be a part of both of the, have feet in both of those boxes at the same time, and building your own brand, whether you are employed by someone else or have your own business in another brand name, is important. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that?
I always, and I've told people for years, even before the current, our current economy has really started focusing more on small business development, is that the best and most successful business people always saw themselves as entrepreneurs. I've worked for Black Enterprise now for 25 years, but I've always seen myself as an entrepreneur. Black Enterprise just was my main client and my primary client. But I had to think with an entrepreneurial mindset to really bring value to my client, to my company. So people who with an entrepreneurial mindset are entrepreneurs whether they own businesses or not. Now we're in what I call the creative economy, where everybody has to be an entrepreneur, even if you are a traditionally employed person, because the economy demands it. So I always tell people, be entrepreneurial. That doesn't mean you always own a business. A lot of successful entrepreneurs sell their business, work for somebody else for a while, buy another business, consult. But if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you will survive and thrive in this economy.
Great advice. And in our last few seconds with you, I want to ask you about this because I follow you on Twitter.
Yes.
And I love the way you engage with people. We have tweeted each other from time to time. And one of the things I noticed about you is that you make time regularly in your schedule for fitness. I want you to tell us how that has impacted your ability to do all of the things that you do, manage all the people you manage, maintain a Twitter account that is you personally tweeting. How has fitness helped you be successful?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I always ask small business owners in particular, who is the most important person in your business? What happens if you get sick? What happens if you have a stroke or a heart attack? What happens if you are not operating at peak efficiency when you're going to a sales meeting or at a conference? What happens when you're just too tired to get the job done or to deal with the stress of the job? You are the key executive of your company. Well, if that's the case, why wouldn't you invest time and energy to making sure that you're operating at peak efficiency? I talk a lot about how much wealth is lost when people have heart attacks in their 40s, Black men in particular. You're in your peak earning years. And so you're not doing this as an act of vanity. This is an act of business responsibility to your employees, to your investors, to your customers and clients, to take time to make sure you're operating at peak efficiency. And that's mind, body, and spirit. And I always tell people, if you can't take 4 hours out of the week to work out and do something to keep yourself strong and healthy and get proper amounts of sleep and eat well, why should I invest in you? You are the most important person in your business. For most small business owners, you are the most important asset. So you got to protect that asset just like you'd buy insurance for accidents and disability and other things that protect your investment. You have to do the same thing. And I believe strongly in that.
Such good advice from Alfred Edmond Jr. For people who sit at computers for so much of the day. We do have to remember that we are our most important asset. And I love the way you put it too, is why should I invest in you if I don't see you investing in the long-term success and actually existence of yourself? And that's a really good question. I challenge all of you listening to think about what he's talking about. The book that he recommended, the idea of listening, and just wonderful advice about staying fit and healthy. Alfred Edmond Jr., thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put all of his information right here at the bottom of this blog post so you can follow him on Twitter. He's got a radio show, the Urban Roundtable that he does, the conference is coming up in Chicago, which you have to check out. I think there's an early bird right now too, isn't there?
Yes, the early bird actually got extended, so you can save
All right.
$200 if you get in before the 31st of March. And I'm telling you, I've been working at BE, so it sounds, you would expect this to come from me, but that is the most amazing event for entrepreneurs. You're surrounded by 1,500 people who think just like you do as an entrepreneur.
And you get to meet Alfred Edmond Jr. and you get to meet Indie Beauty Network member Dawn Fitch. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing like meeting and engaging with her. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. Great advice. And we'll see you on Twitter and in Chicago.
My pleasure, Donna.